2:15 a.m. Over the Dnipro River, the night lay frozen, silent, windless, and brutally cold. The black water mirrored the steel bones of the bridge, rippling only when a stray gust drifted across. Then came the rumble, a deep, mechanical growl rolling over steel. A Russian convoy more than 5 miles long crept across the span. Over 500 vehicles, fuel carriers, ammunition trucks, field kitchens, mobile command units, medical transports, inching toward the southern front. Their cargo could sustain 2,000 troops for a week of continuous fighting. Every truck bore the white Z mark, headlamps filtered red. The soldiers inside, exhausted from 12 hours of non-stop driving through occupied territory, trusted the darkness for safety. They believed Ukrainian drones hunted only in daylight. They were wrong.
2:17 a.m. At the midpoint of the bridge, traffic began to choke. A blown tire, one of dozens that had failed from cheap rubber and overloaded axles, forced a Ural truck carrying 120mm mortar rounds to a stop on an incline, its engine coughing smoke. The line behind braked hard, idling in confusion. Within minutes, the entire convoy backed up across the span, engines thrumming in unison. From 12,000 feet above, a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone captured the glowing serpentine of headlights frozen in place. Thermal imaging lit up every engine, every generator, every heat source like molten veins. Panzer S-1 mobile air defenses idled near the bridges, turrets scanning, each armed with 57 E-6 missiles and 30mm autocannons. Farther upriver, a Nabo-M radar pulsed through the night, detecting objects the size of a baseball from 200 yards away. The Russians believed that made them untouchable. They were wrong again.
2:13 a.m. Beneath the bridge, 12 Ukrainian FPV drones slept in silence. Each, no larger than a dinner plate, clung magnetically to the cold steel beams. 3 days earlier, a reconnaissance team had installed them under full radio silence. Each cost $600 and carried a PG-7 VL-shaped charge warhead, enough to punch through 12 inches of reinforced concrete or a tank's armor. For 72 hours, they waited. No GPS, no radio, no control signal. Each drone built its own 3D structural map using onboard LiDAR, needing only a single encrypted wake command from a hidden post 500 yards away, a ruined pump house camouflaged against thermal detection. Inside, 2 soldiers waited, a communications officer and a drone specialist. For 3 nights, they watched the river and the bridge breathe. 2:17 a.m. That failed tire changed everything. The bridge trembled under synchronized idling engines. The Ukrainian operators stared at the infrared feed. Immobilized targets, fuel and ammunition stacked bumper to bumper. The perfect kill zone. He turned to his partner and pressed a single key. 2:17 a.m. Under the bridge, 12 tiny green LEDs blinked alive. One by one, each drone released its magnetic clamp and dropped 3 feet before spinning up its motors. The faint whine of propellers merged with the hum above. They hovered in the dark, mapping every beam and joint in silence. 2:17 a.m. The onboard AI assigned priorities: 6 drones to ammunition carriers, 4 to fuel trucks, 2 to command vehicles. The algorithm marked them by heat contrast and relayed encrypted codes through the local mesh network linking all 12 units. 2:18 a.m. Above, a Russian lieutenant at a Panzer S-1 console noticed a flicker, a pulse beneath the bridge on his radar scope. He assumed it was interference or river clutter. Switching from passive to active scan, he caught a faint return, a heat bloom no bigger than a bird. He hesitated, then ordered a 57E-6 missile fired. The rocket screamed downrange and obliterated a discarded Ukrainian decoy quadcopter that had powered up seconds earlier to bait the shot. The blast lit the river in amber,
a 30-foot fireball tearing the night open.
Instantly, the convoy froze. Then, chaos. Engines revved, trucks jackknifed, horns blared. Radios burst alive with panic. Commanders demanded reports. The explosion had done more than ignite the sky. It had told every soldier that something lived beneath their wheels. 2:19 a.m. "Ghost drones under the bridge!" a voice screamed over open comms. Machine gunners fired blindly into the dark. Tracers ricocheted off girders, sparking like lightning. Red lights flashed across Panzer and Tor M2 dashboards. Radar screens bloomed with false echoes, steel beams turning returns into static. The real drones vanished into the noise. Instead of striking, they slipped back under the deck, the AI triggering evasive protocol. Drone 3 activated its X-band jammer. Nearby Panzer radars flared white with interference, then went dead. 2:19:40 a.m. 40 miles north, a Beriev A-50 early warning aircraft detected heat anomalies above the river. Its Schmel M radar locked onto several low-altitude signatures and relayed coordinates to ground command. Seconds later, the Panzer radar cleared. A reticle snapped onto Drone 9. A Tor M2 battery on the eastern bank received the same feed and launched a 9M338 missile at 1,850 miles per hour.
Drone 9 reacted instantly. From its belly, a 100-foot fiber optic line unspooled, releasing an AL-50 radar decoy that mimicked a large target. The missile veered toward the false signal and detonated mid-air. The blast flashed like lightning, illuminating the bridge for miles. The real drone survived, untouched. 2:20 a.m. Silence again. Smoke drifted. Engines hissed. The drones hovered, waiting. 2:12 a.m. In the Ukrainian command post, the operator's finger hovered over one final key, execute. A coded ping confirmed. The convoy was static, no defensive movement, full heat load. He exhaled slowly and pressed. 2:13 a.m. Under the bridge, 11 FPV drones surged awake. Motors screamed in perfect harmony. This time, they didn't hide. The stealth phase ended. Their inertial systems synced with terrain maps and triggered strike pattern Delta 7, designed for maximum shockwave interference and structural overload. 2:20 a.m. They shot upward at full power, propellers slicing humid air at 18,000 RPM, covering 200 yards then under 6 seconds. Drone 1 locked beneath an ammunition truck loaded with 120mm mortar shells and 122mm artillery rounds. Its PG-7VL warhead struck reinforced concrete, delaying detonation for 1.1 seconds. The shaped charge blasted through 12 inches of concrete and steel, jetting molten metal upward at 7,000 meters per second, igniting the munitions inside. The explosion ricocheted off the river's surface, compressing the blast wave. Concrete cracked. The bridge shook. Drone 2 hit the second ammo cluster 15 meters east. Drone 3 struck a JP-8 fuel tanker. Drones 4 and 5 slammed into adjacent carriers. Drone 6 detonated below a mobile command post. Each blast overlapped within milliseconds, pressure waves multiplying. The first fuel truck ruptured. JP-8 poured across the deck, igniting into a 70-foot wall of fire. Shockwaves tore through the column. Soldiers near a Panzer launcher were thrown into guardrails. Concrete burst apart. Rebar snapped like bones. The final 4 drones hit the support columns. Drones 8 and 9 targeted the center pillars. 10 and 11 hit the southern anchors. Their synchronized detonations sent 4 thunderclaps through the structure. Stress fractures spidered through the concrete. The southern span sagged 6 inches, 12, then 30.
2:38 a.m. One column failed completely. The deck folded inward. The bridge began to collapse. 3:46 a.m. Chaos compressed into seconds. A Ural truck stacked with 82mm mortar shells plunged nose first into the crater, setting off chain detonations. 3 ammunition carriers went up together, cascading explosions down the bridge. A nearby Panzer S-1 tried reversing but was trapped between flames. Its 30mm cannon fired blindly into smoke, then vanished in a fireball. 3:47 a.m. 2 fuel trucks ignited. The twin blast hit 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, registering as a 2.6 magnitude tremor on regional seismic sensors. Windows shattered for miles. Vegetation flattened.
3:47 a.m. The bridge was no longer a convoy route. It was a furnace. Flames towered 80 feet. Trucks melted into slag. Rivers of burning diesel flowed. The southern span's rebar glowed red, then buckled. 3:48 a.m. The entire southern section of the Dnipro Bridge gave way. 40 vehicles, fuel trucks, command carriers, ammunition transports plunged into the river. Some exploded mid-air, scattering shrapnel. Others sank, hissing steam through the burning surface. 3:49 a.m. Russian sensors were blinded. Infrared optics overloaded. Commanders shouted over jammed radios. "Bridge hit! We're burning! Air cover now!" But all transmissions were intercepted by Ukrainian SIGINT teams and routed to Kyiv. 3:50 a.m. At least 110 of the 300 vehicles were destroyed or disabled. Satellite imagery revealed half a mile of wreckage, a black scar on both ends of the bridge. 3:51 a.m. Thermal drones captured it all. Heat signatures blooming, fading, vanishing. Analysts in Kyiv overlaid detonation data with predictive models. Every blast matched perfectly. The strike had worked with surgical precision.
3:52 a.m. Southern Command fell silent. No convoy comms. Static across every channel. Artillery units reported only 72 hours of fuel and shells remaining. 3:53 a.m. Russian staff near Melitopol attempted reroutes via Novokovka, the only other major crossing, but HIMARS already had it dialed in. Any movement would be suicide. 4 a.m. 45 minutes. $10,000 in drones, $300 million in Russian losses. It wasn't just destruction, it was a message, a demonstration that the age of columns and armor was ending, replaced by algorithms, by invisible hands of code that struck where no army could reach. 4:10 a.m. As dawn bled over the river, the half-destroyed bridge burned like a horizon of molten iron. Soldiers on the northern side stood powerless, watching comrades vanish beneath collapsing steel. 4:25 a.m. From Kiev to London to Washington, satellite feeds relayed the footage. Analysts called it a revolution, proof that autonomy had rewritten warfare. The Dnipro Bridge strike was over, but its echo would haunt every commander who believed armor could still stop silence. 4:30 a.m. Across the southern front, Russian radios stayed dead. The lifeline to Tokmak and Melitopol was gone. Only the glow of fire marked where the bridge once stood. 4:45 a.m. At Southern Command HQ, an officer typed the first emergency entry. Convoy Echo 6 unresponsive. Possible strike event. The final image recovered from a Panzer feed was a burst of white light. Then, static. 4:50 a.m. Inside the bunker, engineers replayed the flight logs. Every vibration compensated. Every beam mapped by LiDAR in real time. The drones had done exactly what they were programmed to do. Nothing more, nothing less. And in that silence, the future of war had spoken. The precision stunned even the engineers. Every explosion struck within 10 inches of its intended aim. Tasks that once demanded a human pilot's line of sight were now being executed autonomously in complete darkness.
10 a.m. From orbit, commercial satellites recorded thermal plumes still burning a fierce orange. Smoke trailed 6 miles to the east, visible in both radar and infrared scopes. Spectral analysis confirmed the fires burned JP-8, diesel, and cooking propellant. In those overhead frames, the bridge looked like a glowing skeleton, support columns warped and partially melted. 5:20 a.m. In Russian rear echelons, panic rippled through logistics channels. Depot commanders at Melitopol, Tokmak, and Vasilivka begged for emergency resupply via alternate crossings, but each viable route lay under Ukrainian observation or inside HIMARS range. A 58-mile detour offered a temporary alternative through contested ground, but reconnaissance soon caught columns moving along it. Ukrainian artillery fire missions were already pre-calculated before the first truck reached the alternate route. 3:30 a.m. Ukrainian EW teams intercepted frantic Russian distress calls. "No bridge, no fuel, we're stuck. Command vehicles down. Engineers can't reach site," shouted voices recorded on multiple channels. Analysts logged, triangulated, and packaged the audio for national briefings. The assessment was stark. The southern front had been severed. Dawn. A leaden light settled over the Dnipro as Ukrainian aerial assets surveyed the scene. From above, it was apocalyptic. Half the bridge submerged, vehicles ablaze on both banks, black smoke layered against low clouds. Thermal reading showed persistent hotspots. Firefighters from rear units struggled to get close through the heat and feared unexploded ordnance. Overhead, Ukrainian drones circled, not to strike, but to document. 6:15 a.m. Kyiv's intelligence centers pushed preliminary findings to partner agencies. Operational success confirmed. Structural collapse verified. Enemy logistics paralyzed. Satellite imagery, strike telemetry, infrared overlays, and an early casualty estimate were attached. 6:20 a.m. Unfiltered footage began leaking across Russian social platforms. Soldiers filming burning convoys. The bridge twisted into a sculpture of wreckage. Flames reflected in the Dnipro. Hashtags calling it the Dnipro Nightmare trended within an hour. State media attempts at suppression only amplified the footage. Civilian truckers refusing Southern contracts added an immediate economic ripple. 6:30 a.m. Forward Ukrainian artillery officers watched live feeds as Russian movement stalled. M777 and M109 batteries reoriented toward Orikhiv. By midday, HIMARS units had fired on the alternate route, ensuring it too would be hazardous. The strike's ripple had begun. 0700 hours. Within 24 hours, Russian artillery groups around Tokmak reported critical shortages. Batteries rationed shells, 5 rounds per hour, down from 50. Mechanized spearheads halted for lack of fuel. Frontline troops reverted to defensive digging. Offensive plans were abandoned. 0730 hours. At Ukrainian Joint Operations Command, analysts updated logistics impact charts. Southern sector artillery readiness down 63%. Fuel transport capacity reduced by 70%. Convoy frequency in the affected zone dropped to 0. Every metric pointed to the same reality: paralysis.
10 a.m. The Dnipro strike was not merely tactical, it was systemic, disrupting command, mobility, morale, and momentum at once. As one engineer summarized in a terse report, the enemy lost its supply chain. We lost 12 lithium batteries. 8:30 a.m. The Russian Ministry of Defense issued a terse statement, calling it an accident involving fuel transport vehicles. Open-source imagery and geolocation matched the bridge to pre-strike satellite archives, proving otherwise. International defense analysts labeled the event a textbook case of micro-autonomous denial operations, ultra-low-cost drones producing disproportionate disruption. Think tanks compared it to early cyber campaigns, a quiet paradigm shift executed with minimal resources. 9 a.m. The Ukrainian General Staff ordered follow-on exploitation. Recon units swept newly exposed positions south of Orikhiv and west of Robotny.
Forward surveillance showed many trenches abandoned and idled armored vehicles low on fuel. 9:30 a.m. Maps in Kyiv were updated in real time. Blue arrows marking Ukrainian mechanized advances, red markers of Russian positions pushed back. Satellite feeds made the truth visible. The southern line was unspooling. The bridge was gone. The convoy was gone. For the first time in weeks, Ukrainian units advanced without the soundtrack of incoming rounds. That silence itself was a strategic gain. 3 p.m. The defense minister, reviewing the after-action, scribbled one line in the margin. Silent rotors, historic outcome. He was not wrong.
10:30 a.m. Recon drones continued to circle the shattered span. The fire had burned down to smoke and twisted metal. From above, the structure resembled a broken rib, half submerged, half suspended on stressed rebar. Thermal overlays still marked hot pockets from munitions cooking off. Analysts cataloged destroyed tankers, collapsed pillars, and scorched vehicles. Every impact was time-stamped. Overpressure and temperature readings were logged. Engineers fed the data back into target selection algorithms, mission telemetry to refine the next generation of autonomous strike systems. This operation was both victory and validation. Low-cost autonomy, precise mapping, and AI-assisted targeting had altered combat calculus without risking pilots. By mid-morning, Russian official lines downplayed the event as a localized logistics fire. But soldier cell phone videos told another story: twisted spans, burning convoys, night sky explosions. Censorship failed. Abroad, analysts reconstructed the sequence and compared it to previous disruptive strikes. Commentators called it the opening chapter of algorithmic warfare, where logic and code, not mass, decide outcomes. On the ground, Ukrainian brigades pressed the advantage. Units near Orikov advanced kilometers in days. Russian forces, cut off from resupply, withdrew to fallback lines. Captured personnel later testified the columns had run out of food and diesel before being attacked. Within 72 hours, the southern front's cohesion had fractured. Artillery fell silent as ammunition stocks dwindled, and convoy planning became impossible under constant observation. From space, fresh satellite imagery painted the Dnipro Bridge as a black scar between two armies, burned trucks and craters on the southern bank, disciplined Ukrainian armor moving south from the north. Forensic reconstruction showed how the operation had remained invisible. The drone's LiDAR mapped the structure in 3D while attached, storing point clouds and encrypted buffers. Inertial navigation compensated for vibration. Compact navigation algorithms ran on consumer hardware powered by recycled batteries. What disabled a division had been assembled from hobbyist parts. Defense circles took note. New doctrines, subsurface drone ambush, low-profile swarm denial, autonomous micro-kill chains began circulating, all tracing back to the same timestamp, 02:15 a.m. on the Dnipro. In the wreckage, Russian recovery teams struggled through twisted steel, each salvaged truck a reminder of the vulnerability they'd overlooked. They had feared attacks from above, not from beneath their wheels. Night fell again over the river. Drones hovered, recording the aftermath for analysis. No follow-up strike was necessary. The point had been made. In Kyiv, the general staff finalized the after-action. Mission complete. Objectives achieved. Enemy logistics collapse confirmed. The conclusion was stark. The operation wasn't merely destruction. It demonstrated adaptation. Warfare had evolved. For centuries, bridges symbolized connection and control. Now one destroyed bridge symbolized their inverse, how connection itself could be exploited as weakness. The Dnipro operation proved that dominance no longer rests solely with the most steel, but with the best code. For the planners, there was no triumphalist celebration, only quiet understanding. No man jets, no massed artillery barrages, just a keyboard, algorithms, and timing.
The operator who pressed the wake key sat alone later in the concrete bunker and watched the footage again. 12 green LEDs flickering to life, the span collapsing, the convoy dissolving into fire. He shut down the terminal and removed the key from its slot. His task was done.
For the wider world, it was only the beginning. Militaries would study it for years, economists would analyze cost ratios, ethicists and philosophers would debate machine autonomy. For the men on that bridge, there had been no debate, only seconds between realization and oblivion. If this was Russia's attempt to break Ukrainian resistance and it failed, then this night marked a larger inflection point, a turning in not just one war, but in how wars will be fought. The future of conflict did not arrive with the thunder of ordnance. It arrived on silent rotors beneath a steel bridge at 02:15 a.m., not with missiles, but with algorithms, not with tanks, but with code, not with noise, but with ruthless precision. War has shifted quietly and irreversibly, from brute force to intelligence, patience, and timing. It began here on the Dnipro, where a dozen drones waited 72 hours for the perfect moment and rewrote the rules of modern conflict. So, if you had $10,000 and one night, what kind of trap would you set against a force 1,000 times stronger? Tell us in the comments. If you think these stories matter, like, share, and subscribe for the next deep dive. This is Battle Signals, where every strike has a story. We'll see you on the next mission.